my name is Lori Friedman. I am on the steering committee here at Indivisible Marin. We have many colleagues here today to help with this call, but just a little bit about our organization. Susan Morgan, who's our founder and director, she's actually here today in the chat. She started this group in 2017 after Trump was first elected and is still with us 8 years later. And it's just been an inspiration and to all of us, and I really thank her for her support of this call today and for being here. A couple of other people. Betty Von Glahn is here. She's the longtime head of our phone banking team, and I helped her out last year during the election, and we'll be co-presenting today. Some of our mentors are here, our phone banking team mentors that worked in the elections last year are here. Sue Ike, Sherry Green is here today, as well as David Porter, and he'll be running the Zoom part of the call today. So a big thanks for all of them for giving up their afternoons today to help us with this project. Our agenda is fairly brief. I think we'll try to get you out of here well before 2 o'clock. I'm going to cover the background information, why call our reps, what's important about that, what do they do with that information, and then Betty's going to take over. She's going to do an overview of the platform, do a demonstration of it, and then we're going to go into smaller rooms so that we can demonstrate calls to you all, have you listen to them. You'll have time to ask some questions and we can work through the process for each of you. Next slide, please. So why do we call our reps? It's probably the biggest question that we get around this issue is, does it really work? Is it really something that's worth my time doing? It absolutely is. It is the single most effective way to influence our representatives. They work for us. Ultimately, they need our vote. This is the way that we hold them accountable for their actions, for their votes, for their legislation. It creates a record for them. And when many people call on the same issue, it increases the urgency of it. And that's what we certainly need to do during times like this. Many of the pieces of legislation that we see go through Congress, especially the smaller ones, actually come out of these phone calls. When a local district or a state has an issue or has a problem, it is often the citizens that start that process for needed legislation. So it's absolutely critical, but especially now so with what we're dealing with the Trump administration. It also gives us an opportunity to praise something our elected officials did that we support. They get a lot of negative. If they don't hear from us, they're kind of going to assume that we're okay with what they're doing, but this gives us an added opportunity to give them some reinforcement that they're going down the right path. An exceptionally important part of all of this is if you have a personal story about how an issue or an action, something about our politics has affected you or the people you care about in that district or in that state. These stories are enormously powerful for our elected representatives. This is how they communicate with their colleagues, how they form coalitions, and the more personal, definitely the better. Next slide. What actually happens to the information that we give? It's actually used. At the end of the day, no matter how long your message is or how long you talk or write, the bottom line is a check mark. It's going to go on a tally for support for a given piece of legislation, for a given nomination. It's that tally at the end of the day that gets counted and reported to that representative. It's also important on how that tally count changes over time. Is this an issue that's getting more support or less support over a week? So it comes down to basic math. It's data that is used for congressional work, for them to plan their legislation and their votes. They use it in press releases. It's more powerful if a representative is coming out with a view on a given issue or a pending piece of legislation. If he can say, my phones are ringing off the hook, I've had 2,000 more calls today than yesterday, that just gives it more power, more urgency, and it makes it much more effective. I think there's one more. Oh, it just amplifies and reflects our citizen energy. It's our voice. It's the most important and most impactful way that you can affect their behavior. Next slide, please.
This is it.
A couple of things before you get ready to call is to do your homework. And what I mean by this is just making sure that you're up to date on your representative, whether it's a congressional representative or a senator's actual positions. It can change fairly quickly. The best ways to do that are to be active on their social media because that's where you're going to see things in real time. We also recommend that you sign up on everybody's websites to receive their newsletters. And that's a really important way to get that background information. Once you've got that and you're fairly up to date with what um, that particular elected official has done, you want to go through the script that is on the five call application. And these scripts will help guide you. They're going to give you a lot of background information about the issue. They're going to give you links to information about it. Put that together with the information that you've gotten from their newsletters and their social media. Make sure you're following them there. And then you'll be able to form, the ideas of what you want to say. The scripts are great and we really encourage them if you're new to this, but you do certainly want to make it your own. You want to know your priorities going into calling, and live conversations are definitely the best way to go, especially if you're dealing with something that's time sensitive. So if it's a vote or a nomination that's coming up in the next 24 hours, the best way to get that information to your elected official is with a live conversation. Voicemails do work, and we get them a lot these days because they are receiving a lot of phone calls. And emails, if your voicemail is full, is another option. Those won't have go necessarily get to the immediate count because you don't know how long it's going to take for someone to get to those voicemails in that office or the emails. So shoot for live conversations, but certainly feel free to leave a voicemail. I email if that voicemail is full and it's time sensitive because I want something to get in there. Sometimes I email if it's something very general that isn't time sensitive at all. And I can just send an email for that. But focus first and foremost on those live conversations, which is what we're hopefully going to be able to demonstrate today. I'm going to turn this over to Betty now, and she's going to walk you through the platform.
Okay. Before I go over the app itself, I'm just going to pass on a few tips for when you're actually on the call. You'll start out by identifying yourself and giving your location, and what is requested will be either your zip code or the town. Most of these scripts, it has you providing the town that you live in, and this is just so they know you're their constituent. You're going to only address one issue per phone call, per voicemail, or in an email, except if you actually have reached a staffer. Sometimes you get a more informal conversation going where you're identifying the issue that's important. You're very clear about how you feel about that issue. And then maybe you could quickly say, I have another issue that matters to me. Could I just give you my opinion on Ukraine? And they may be able to tally that in the same phone call. But generally, it's one issue per call. So you'll see there are 42 issues. You'll have plenty of calls that you can make. If you do write your own script, just make sure to keep it short. I know from my experience, when I call one of my senator's offices, the voicemail allowance for time is very short. And I use the scripts from 5 calls most of the time. If not, I've written my own and keep them to that short length. But still, I've been cut off with a 5 call script. So when you write your own script, make sure you keep it short. And as Lori said, include any specific personal ways that this issue has impacted you. Again, in keeping it short, that means in just a couple sentences. Be professional and polite always. It just doesn't help to be snarky or to let, very justifiable frustration or anger, but this isn't the place for it. So please be professional and polite. And as Lori said, express your gratitude to your representative or senator when it's appropriate. We all know that when you're working hard, it feels good to know that your work is appreciated. So that's really just on a human level, a decent thing if you can get that in a sentence or two as well. Okay, so I'm going to just go through the app. It is a very easy to use, short experience. I think you'll find it's pretty straightforward. So when you come into the app, you're going to see this open bar here, and you're going to enter your zip code or your address, whichever you want. And then every subsequent time that you use this, you're going to see the town in which you live will be shown. Then you're going to see this long list of issues that you could call about. I like going right down here to see all 42 topics because then they break them into subject areas. So you can look and see, do you want to call about the budget, civil rights, consumer protection, any of them? Later today, I'm going to be calling about the vaccines because this is one where I was able, in writing my script, to just inject a few words that were my personal stake into it. So keeping my script short, I was just able to say I'm a retired public school teacher and how important herd immunity is for children. And, you know, I'm not going into a long story about some child who had mumps, but it is important to have some kind of a personal hold there. Okay, so let's say this is my issue. Now I'm going to click on it. And here we are. We've got this whole part on the right that is the background on Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and his policies on vaccines. So you can read through that before you call if you'd like. Also, if you end up, after making a few calls on issues using their scripts, you may feel more comfortable writing your own. Whatever your issue is, you can always look at the background and get some key information to include in your script. Then right below that, you can see, based on my zip code, they've populated my representative and my two senators. So here's my representative, Jared Huffman. And you're given a big telephone number because that's the Washington, D.C. office. But if I wanted, I could call any of the branch offices, only one, because you're only calling once on this issue. So I could pick any of these if I live in one of those areas, or I can call the DC number. Right below that is the script itself. And you can see it's very short. I'm not going to read through it now, but you're identifying yourself, where you're from, so they know you're a constituent, and then a little bit about how you feel on this issue, and then thanking them for their time. And if leaving a voicemail, they say, please leave your full street address to ensure that your call is tallied. At the end of the call, if you were unable, if their voicemail was full and nobody picked up, you would click on unavailable so that the result of this call is recorded. If you left a voicemail, you'll click on voicemail. And if you spoke with a staffer, you'll click on contact. Skip is if you're back up here, and let's say you started these calls yesterday, but stopped after one call to Jared, and now you want to call Adam Schiff, your senator, but Jared popped up. If you come down here and click on skip, it'll take you to Adam Schiff. And if I clicked it again, it would take me to Alex Padilla, my other senator. I generally call the Washington number, but you can call whichever number you choose. Okay, so that is really it. That's the whole thing. You sign in with your zip code or address, you pick your issue, it'll populate with the issue background, your representatives, phone numbers, and the script, and then you just make your call. Once you're in a breakout room, well, let me just say, I like making my calls by leaving my laptop open so that I can see this script. And then I call using my phone. So I go to the 5Calls app on my phone, and it's just like this. I will click on this phone number. But when you click on the phone number, as we all know, when we're dialing a friend, what you see on your phone is the phone information. You see your dial pad. Well, or you see that it's calling that person. But while it's dialing, you're going to want that script ready so you can start talking. So what you'll do, and your mentor can go over this again with you, you just click the home button on your phone, and click your browser and it'll bring your script up again. It'll leave the phone part of the screen and go to your browser again so that you can see this. I avoid all that by keeping my laptop open so I can read this and calling on my phone. But your mentor can go over that with you if that's confusing. Okay, so coming back to our slides, just one second. I want to make that bigger again. Before we go on, I want to tell you about an additional action you can take that is completely unrelated to today's activity with the 5Calls app, but this is a way that you can influence your Republican representatives. As you know, probably, representatives only respond to their constituents' calls. So what do you do if you want to influence a Republican representative who's not your representative, or if you're in a blue district and you're never able to influence Republicans? Here is a phone bank for you. The California Democratic Party on Monday started hosting phone banks to influence Republican representatives to save health care for millions of Americans who get their health care through Medicaid. So the phone bankers on these calls are calling voters in 3 California districts that are currently held by Republicans. We're asking the voters to call their representatives because they are the constituents, asking them to call their representatives and urging them to vote against Medicaid cuts. An example of this that is extremely indicative of how crucial this can be, we made calls throughout the election in California's 22nd district and weren't successful in getting Rudy Salas elected. So David Valadao, the Republican, is representing that district. Well, California's 22nd district has the highest number of Medicaid recipients in the country. 67% of the people in that district are on Medicaid. We're calling them to say, call David Valadao, have him vote against those cuts. That's a very compelling phone call for David Valadao when that many people will be affected. So these are really crucial calls to make, and it's a great opportunity for those of us in blue districts or just not in David Valadao's district to help move the needle. So wherever you are in the US, you can make these calls. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing here. And Lori, did you put the link to the app in the chat? And could you put the link to this, the California Democratic Party's phone bank in the chat?
They're in the chat. They're both in the chat.
Oh, okay. And I'm going to just stop sharing right now. And Susan, do you want to say something before I finish? Do you want to go ahead?
Yes, if I could. Thank you, Betty. I've
Sure.
just been following the chat and trying to answer a few questions. And I just wanted to make the point that the 5Calls app is great. It makes it easy for all of us, right? But we don't want to rely exclusively on the 5Calls app. There's a lot of occasions where if the issue is local, 5Calls wouldn't have a script, or any number of reasons why 5Calls might not meet all of your needs. So it really is very simple to find your own phone numbers, if it's safe for your state reps or even a local person, and call, speak from the heart. So 5Calls app is an enhancement, but we can always all do it the old-fashioned way. That's it.
Okay. So right now, for those of you who would like to hear a mentor make a call to their representative or senator, or if you've got questions, we're going to move you into breakout rooms so that you could get those questions answered and hear a call made. Some of you may feel, okay, I've got this, I understand the app. That's really the end of our presentation, and we would want to just thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for taking action. And for those of you who feel you don't need any more help, you can hop off the call now, our call, and start making your calls. So we don't want to hold you if you just want to get on with it. But for anyone who would like to stay, David is going to now organize people into breakout